Good morning. My name is Malcolm Young. I'm the Dean of Grace Cathedral. It is such a blessing to see all of you here. This is such an important topic, and so I was thinking about late into the night, and in many ways, it's the most important thing that we face as a society right now. So we're very, very blessed to all be here. It's been a very tumultuous time in our country, and so much has happened. The presidential campaign was just so divisive and painful. And in many ways, it was confusing too, almost mystifying. I think whether you're on the far right or on the left, either way, it didn't seem to be like business as usual by any stretch of the imagination. At no time since the Civil War has it felt like people have been at odds in quite the same kind of way. I mean, even during the Vietnam era, it seemed like everybody was reasonable. I mean, whereas today it just has a very different feeling. Our guest today is one of the most influential sociologists of her generation. She's a best-selling author of 9 books, 4 of which have been named as New York Times Notable Book of the Year. The winner of the Ulysses Medal, as well as the Guggenheim and Mellon Grants, her influential, unusually perceptive work has opened up new ways of seeing family life, love, gender, the workplace, market transactions, indeed America itself. In her brilliant new book, Strangers in Their Own Land, Anger and Mourning on the American Right, one of 6 books to understand Trump's win, according to the New York Times, the day after the election. I remember that, because I wanted to understand. She plumbs our deep political divide and asks the question, how does the world look from the heart of the right? Please welcome Arlie Russell Hochschild. You grew up in the house of a U.S. ambassador to New Zealand and Ghana and Tunisia, and I wonder how that experience helped you to be able to, maybe see societies in a different kind of way. And then, as a follow-up question, I wonder too, when you first began to come to political consciousness, to be aware that adults had differing political views and that it affected their relations with one another.
Wow.
I remember what it was like for me. I mean, my parents told me, don't tell anybody in our neighborhood who we voted for.
Yeah. Oh.
It's like it was a big secret because they didn't want to be,
Yeah. Well, I think that experience did influence me a lot. I lived a pretty ordinary middle-class childhood until age 12. And then my father was assigned to Israel, and I found myself completely displaced, and I didn't have the language. The scene was very hot. I was in a Scottish mission school with all Israeli students, and lunchtime was an hour and a half, and I was a head taller than everybody, and had these weird Oxford shoes, this American dress. Oh, I was a fish out of water. And for that first week and a half, maybe, and then it was an extraordinary experience. But that was good for me. It was painful at the time.
Yeah, I was thinking it's some childhood adversity that made it possible to do what you've been able to do since then.
It's why I am a sociologist. You really have to figure out how this thing works, because you don't fit in. So the experience of being an oddball, but one that was kind of protected. And then I began to notice, I was the kid that passed the peanuts, in these cocktail parties.
Yeah, exactly.
Look at the faces from down below. These smiles, kind of, oh, this one's mad at that one.
Right.
This guy wants to talk to someone over here, even though he's really talking just to that person. And, there was just a whole complex network of relationships going on that I was trying to decipher. And I think that was, I look back at the time, I didn't even know I was doing it, and then, and I talk about this in the book, it seemed relevant to this project. I kind of thought I was my dad's helper, You know, in your child's mind, you have this, oh, I have been assigned the job of really befriending, you know, the stranger and, you know, the people that spoke a different language and looked
his
different.
helper.
And
it was a family business,
it was
and you were helping out just in the same, like in the corner store, you'd be like,
That's
the
right.
clergy kids do that
That's right.
too.
I'm a little...
Go talk to that kid, he doesn't know anybody here.
That's right, that's right. Well, that was me, you know, I was his helper. Did he actually ask me to help? No, I'm sure not. And why do it? Well, that wasn't something I had thoughts about at 12. But I think that stuck with me too. Hey, we can really get to know the other, you know, the new, that they're not enemies. There's a purpose in understanding them. So you really hit something that I think has formed me as a person.
Yeah, definitely. And I wonder too, just about your political consciousness too. Did you come back to the U.S. for college, and how prepared were you to understand? You know, it just seemed like there was less at stake between the Democrats and the Republicans seemed more similar before.
I know.
And so I wonder, you know, how that was as you first started noticing differences in different
how the
political
politics
parties
got into it. You know, my parents were very progressive, and they were liberal Democrats and Unitarians. Religious Unitarians. I know to some that seems paradoxical, but every Sunday. And I always wanted to know how my dad was handling that, because he was to represent, you know, the president, whoever that president was, and he did that really well.
Yeah.
But I was always picking at him, Dad, what do you really believe? You know, what do you really believe?
Right.
And he wouldn't tell me. I'm representing the president. So that was a chronic frustration. And when I got back to the U.S., I again didn't fit into this normal childhood or adolescence at that point. I thought, oh, look, it's a big world, and they're doing the jitterbug. Wait a minute. So the being a little out of it kept hanging on as an experience. I thought, well, wait till I get to college.
Right.
Well, wait till I get to graduate school. And then I met my husband.
Yeah.
Wonderful
The
man.
two of you have been married for 50 years, and you know, we're all conscious of both your works. How has that worked together, the two of you together? I mean, I wonder, do you get ideas from each other, or do you just have your separate spheres where you do your work and he does his work?
No, there's a lot of back and forth, and
it
trying
seems like it,
things
just
out.
from the themes that are the bigger picture themes of your.
And he came to Louisiana with me.
Oh,
He was in the middle of
great.
a book manuscript, but he brought his
wow.
computer, and I was staying at this little tiny B&B, and he said, well, we need a little upgrade here.
I can imagine he's there
staying
all day,
a whole
every
month.
day.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So we got a different B&B that time.
Yeah.
But no, it's been wonderful, absolutely wonderful.
How has his thought affected your thought, and how have your thought affected his thought?
Oh, in so many ways. From it's you know, it's hard to
Yeah, we didn't begin the
disaggregate,
question.
you know,
Yeah,
the
right.
12 different ways.
For me, my wife's native Hawaiian, and a lot of it has just had to do there's a lot of people in my life who are my cousins and uncles and aunties. I would never have had anything to do with them, and it's, you know, talk about raising your consciousness. So it's not even things that she necessarily says, but it's just like that whole, you know, world that she introduces me to.
Well, this isn't the world. I mean, we more or less have
that's
a
what I was
similar
thinking.
world,
Exactly,
but just, well, you know, just the emotional steadiness that it takes to do a project like this. When I started this project, I had a hard time getting a publisher, which astonished me because I had very good luck before.
Well, boy, you sure had the last
But
laugh, huh?
Yeah.
You should give us a list of all the publishers who turned down the
books
project.
later. I know. But I think they thought, well, she's always worked on work family. She's switching gears here. She'll lose her audience and so on. Anyway, he held me up.
Yeah.
You know, this is great. This is brave. You know, I always felt going out the door. We lived in San Francisco then, and as I, went out the door to get on the plane, I just felt there was something behind me, a blessing.
Right, right.
Go for it. You do it. I'm proud of you.
Wow.
So, in the darkest moments, and then, when it was up for the National Book Award, he was with me and celebrating.
Oh, that's so great. Because there are dark moments, even just the people, the sorrow and sadness of the stories of the people in this book. To see your whole natural environment that you love, you're a hunter or a fisherman, and to see it so terribly degraded. It's just so demoralizing.
I know.
And I can imagine you'd need something to kind of build you up inside in order just to face it every day after day.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. That's right.
This year at the cathedral, we have themes. So last year our theme was home, which was a great theme. We learned so much about what the cathedral, what's special about the Bay Area, and it was homelessness was a big part of our conversation too.
Yeah.
This year our theme is the gift, like Lewis Hyde's book, The Gift.
Oh yes, I love that book.
Yeah. I thought. It just seems so resonant with your work too. How do you think it's important for people to understand, non-market exchanges? How much more important is it that to understand that now that the Trump administration is underway? It seems like gifts may have a different role in our life, or maybe we need to be more aware of that gift economy.
Yes. I set out, getting as far right as I thought Berkeley, California was left. Let me just go there and open my eyes and take my alarm system off and really permit myself curiosity about people I knew I was very different from. And I guess I thought, I'm not sure they're nice. I'm prepared for that. What if they don't give gifts?
Right.
What if they're not good to their neighbors? And how am I going to like them? That was actually
and will they
on my
accept
mind.
me? That's such a deep part of every interaction we
know.
have is will they like me?
Yeah. Can I be a gift to them?
Yes.
Would they to give me the gift of letting me into their lives? All of that was up for grabs, and a source of doubt for me because I'd read Ayn Rand.
Yeah, right.
I thought, oh, Jesus.
God bless you. Could you give me a summary of that? I feel like I should have read it. But
I know. Well, Jesus was a wimp, Oh, mercy. So I was really, one of the first things I came to realize is, no, they do have a gift exchange. They give gifts to each other, but they have a different empathy map than I do, a different gift exchange map, that they do it more locally. I interviewed a woman, if you read the book, she's Janice Areno, she's the team loyalist, she's very hard in her, unless you work, she has little pity.
Those that don't work don't get paid,
don't get paid. Yeah, that's right. And she'll make work up for you to do, so work was a moral thing for her. But I noticed she was an accountant. She came from a large Cajun Pentecostal family, and her father worked in Citgo at the plants, and there was an explosion at Citgo, which they thought the end of the world was happening, and that's kind of the experience they had. This is in southwest Louisiana, in a big petrochemical center, that she grew up in, this blue-collar family, first to go to college, and in her generation. Her father was the oldest of 10, all of whom died of cancer because of the pollution in the area. So I'm in her office noticing a huge collection of elephants.
Yeah.
I'm a Republican, she said, Tea Party Republican. So, but on her desk was a blizzard of paper. And what was that? Tax returns. Well, this one's for the cleaning lady. This is for my sister-in-law. This is for the guy down the street. I thought, okay, I'm learning about gifts.
That's great.
You know?
Yeah, so she's doing her neighbor's tax returns, helping them.
That's right. Yeah. And then later on, over sweet teas, I had 100 sweet teas. And I said, well, do you think that we have we're each nice people, but we have different maps as to who to be nice to and who to trust, who to be giving toward. And that yours is more local. It's not people you don't know.
Right.
And mine, I can feel positively and want to help someone I don't know.
Yeah, like the Sierra Club or
the Sierra Club or refugees.
Yeah.
You know, I've never been to Syria. Anyway, and she said, no, that didn't accept that. And she said, for example, here in this Pentecostal church, you see these little African children. There was a photograph. They were all in their Sunday best. It turned out their church had a mission in, I guess it was Nigeria. And she said, you see, we don't know these people, but we're feeling toward them. And I said, yes, but don't you, isn't the point of the mission to get them to be Pentecostals, which makes them more like you? And you know what she said? Long pause. You got me there.
That's great. You know, I'm glad you brought up the religion part. You know, there's so much to explain. I intended to explain more about the book, but we will in a minute. But there is a sense in which you talk about an empathy wall between that world and the qualities that describe the people in that world and the world that we inhabit here in California. And I wonder sometimes just about those categories that don't fit. Like, so here we are at Grace Cathedral, which on the one hand is a religious institution, wholly dedicated to the glory of God, and yet its approach is so different than, our ideals with regard to marriage equality and refugees and, our social justice initiatives just in the city, our work with homelessness, with people with AIDS. I mean, it's such a deep part of our culture, those liberal causes. And I almost wonder if you see a bridge building role for churches that may be on the other side. It may have a foot on both sides of the empathy wall.
Yes, wonderful. Yes, I see an enormous possibility there. Their churches, I felt, had become little cities, that provide many services, but they don't even call them that, help them in many ways. They already tithe 10%.
Yeah.
And we don't need a government if we've got this. And I felt the churches helped them deal with catastrophe, with that big explosion, with death after death, unusual cancers for children that could have been solved.
Yeah.
Progressives would say by, stricter regulation of these big petrochemical plants. But the church had nothing to say about that. They were very conservative on that. A big silence about pollution, but they helped people deal with the illness and the consequences of that political position. So, and they were very, very caring to their parishioners in that kind of we might say myopic way. But I just got an email I was sharing with you a little earlier.
Yeah.
A woman from outside of Boston. I just got back from Boston giving some talks. And she is a parishioner at the Episcopal Church of the Epiphany, it's called. And she said, I've just read your book and I'd like to meet some churchgoers a church in Lake Charles. I thought,
Lake Charles,
wonderful.
Louisiana.
Lake Charles, Louisiana. This is the place where I interviewed some 60 people, 40 of them, hardcore Tea Party and later Trump supporters. And so I emailed one of the people that is in the introduction to the book, Sharon Galicia. She's also the subject of a cover story in Mother Jones magazine. And so, Sharon, hey, I've got this email. I don't know this woman.
Right.
But here's the thing. Are you up for an adventure? She said, great. Yeah. May I write her right away? So this can happen.
Yeah, you're an example of that, of bridge building. I mean, all of a sudden you have this network of connections, people you love and care for, so far away, and they too, I mean, it does break down to the distrust to know someone who is on that other side of the empathy wall. Right. That expression, empathy wall, is completely part of my understanding of the world, by the way. It does a wonderful job of describing how hard it is to put yourself into that other person's shoes and even really feel a sense of concern for them.
And you know what? It came right back to me. They were empathic too.
Yeah.
I'll give you an example. There was one woman who was a wonderful gospel singer, Pentecostal church. Her husband was the minister at this big megachurch. And I was meeting her at a meeting of the Republican Women of Southwest Louisiana. And there were rifle,
exactly.
raffles for a certain kind of
a raffle for guns.
A rifle for guns.
We have raffles for bottles of wine in California.
A gun. And this woman was sitting at the table, and she said, "I love Rush Limbaugh, the conservative radio."
Exactly.
And I think I might have taken a little gulp.
Who I think has just contributed so much, just the decline in the civility of our conversations with it. I mean, in a way, Donald Trump is the natural extension of that trajectory that we.
Exactly.
So that's what would be going on in my heart.
It did. But then I had a little second thought. Okay, empathy wall.
Exactly.
Alarm system off.
Right.
And I said, but Donna, I'd love to have sweet teas with you because I'd love to learn more.
Right.
And everywhere I went, I said who I was and all what I did, why I was there. So we had sweet teas, and she went into. This was a day later, and she went into it. She said, "Well, I love Rush Limbaugh because he hates feminazis, who are these mean." I thought, good. Exactly. Hope she hasn't read me. And environmental wackos,
Right.
Whoa.
That's the two of us.
Yeah. Why do you two? So, gosh. And so I'm listening. Well, what do you mean by feminazi? What is such a person? And environmental wacko, what is that for you? And so after we were going for a while, later, she said, "Was that hard to hear me say that?"
Yeah.
I thought, whoa, wow, she's watching. And then I said, actually, no. It wasn't hard at all. I have my alarm system off. I'm not here to tell you about me, but to learn something and you are doing me an enormous favor. Talk about the gift.
Right, exactly.
You're giving me, that's what I said to her, you're giving me a huge gift. You're letting me into your life and trusting me, and this is a great big gift, and I can't tell you how grateful I am for it.
Yeah, because it's so easy to stay on the surfaces and to give that gift of telling honesty, of saying, this is really the way I feel.
That's right. And you know what she said back? She said, I can take my alarm system off too. And then we had that in common.
Wow.
Okay, let's start there.
Right.
We can do that, Talk underneath our politics in a way. wonderful.
Yeah. Oh, yeah,
It
that's
was a
great.
gift, and yeah.
Oh, that's super.
I'm the recipient of a great gift.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. I think one of the most powerful parts of the book, I think it is when people say to me, have you read this book? We all talk about the same chapter. And that's the chapter where you talk about the deep story behind the people that you met. And you said, the deep story is that narrative it's not an explicit part of the way we talk. It's almost an image or symbol. I mean, that's what I do. I mean, preaching is about deep story. I mean, it's constantly what you're doing. You're evoking one deep story after another deep story. But the deep story that you used to describe the people that you were meeting in Louisiana, the image was of being in this very, very long line.
Right.
And over the edge of the hill, on the other side of the hill, there's the American dream, and you're waiting in line for that. But you're right in the middle of everything. There's tons of people ahead of you, and there's tons of people behind you. And you can look back and feel sorry for the people who are behind you and kind of wish that you were further ahead. And you said, and what it feels like is that someone is taking people from the very back of the line and moving them ahead of you. And that person who's moving them ahead is Barack Hussein Obama, is taking those people from behind the line and cutting ahead of you. Mm-hmm. And you even tested it by talking to the people that asked them, is this what it feels like to be in America today? And that image was very powerful for them.
They said, you read my mind.
Yeah,
I live your metaphor.
Right, exactly. I last night was at a gala. It's like gala season, so I'm going to a zillion of these. But I was talking to a woman, and she just couldn't get past the empathy. Her empathy wall was so big. She just couldn't. She would just say, "But they're wrong."
Well,
that's not.
right.
I mean, African Americans have been treated so badly. So what would your response be to my friend about the deep story part, and then the connection of the deep story to the facts?
Yeah, the facts. Yeah, I do have an appendix, by the way. Appendix 3. Check it out. It's the facts.
I like the way that you keep referring to the appendix.
Yeah. The conversation about race stopped at about 1960.
Yeah.
It just didn't go beyond that. I think that's what I would say, that after we build an empathic bridge, we have to start the conversation there. I'll give you an example.
That's wonderful. I mean, it reminds us that all those things that we just pushed down below. I mean, Brian Stevenson was here this week, the person who helps get people off death row. I mean, talking about basically saying, well, where are all the monuments to lynching? Where are the museums about slavery in America?
Right.
If you go to Germany, you'll see a Holocaust museum. Well, where the heck are the slavery museums here? And in a way, I mean, the pollution that you described, I mean, you wouldn't think that the environment and race are related, and yet they are in all these different ways.
Let me give you an example of how race came up and why I say the conversation stopped and we'd have to go back to that moment. I was out fishing with a guy named Mike. He was born on a sugar plantation, the Old South, and had always worked in oil, sort of the New South in his adulthood. And he wore a big Tea Party T-shirt, Louisiana Tea Party, voted for Trump. And he loved nature, a big fisherman and so on. And so we were out in this boat fishing, which is the best way to interview people, by the way.
I agree. It's like being on a long car trip.
How about race, Mike? You can't go anywhere.
Yeah.
And he said, I'm a reformed bigot. And I said, what's a reformed bigot? Well, I think a bigot is someone who uses the N-word or hates blacks. Quite a narrow definition.
Yeah.
And I've never hated blacks, but I did use the N-word in the 60s, but I stopped. Blacks used it for themselves, but I stopped. Now, if somebody uses that word on my Facebook page, I unfriend them. Yeah. It's offensive to me. So I used to be like that, I'm not now. And I said, what was integration in your high school? This is in Donaldsonville, Louisiana. So Louisiana's a boot. And the lower loops of the Mississippi from Baton Rouge to New Orleans are now called Cancer Alley.
Oh, yeah.
It used to be huge sugar and cotton plantations. They've been bought out by Monsanto, Dow, Citgo, all these big companies that sometimes have their meeting in the big house, big home
Right,
house
exactly.
of
That
the,
was
of the old
interesting, too.
plantation. And it is a new plantation system, really. Oil is the new cotton. And anyway, he lives not very far from there. Donaldsonville is pretty close to the lower loops of the Mississippi. And he said, well, when they integrated my high school in Donaldsonville in the sophomore year, there were 1 or 2 blacks, and by my senior year, half the class was black. And I asked him, did you make any new friends? And you know what the answer was? Long pause. And he said, you're making me think.
Yeah.
So there. I mean, one would have to go back to the conversation you would have at a moment like that and slowly pull it forward.
Right.
Yeah, they're wrong, of course, I believe. But they also, what competes with an openness to that realization for a guy like Mike is his own sense of being a minority group.
Right, exactly.
His own sense of being demeaned as a redneck.
Right.
And his own sense of being invisible, and that the struggles he has had as a plumber's son, a 5th of 7, we didn't know we were poor, kind of thing.
You said that over and over again.
Yes. Oh, I heard that a lot. And, working summers to put himself through college by putting down planks in a bayou, a sort of swampy, mosquito-infested swamp, so that you could build a kind of an oil platform, a drilling platform, do a lot of drilling in the water there. So, he had a kind of a stoical thing. Yeah, you have to, life's a struggle, but he didn't feel that was seen or appreciated. He thought the liberals on the coast saw him as in this backward, kind of swampy South, that he must be stupid and ignorant. And so that was deeply offensive.
Yeah, and
to
you
him.
mentioned even just like cultural representations of Southern people as being part of that problem.
Yeah.
It's interesting. When I do talk to people who are in that world, I do hear a lot about the elites, the politicians don't respect us. They don't listen to us. We've been invisible, and now we're not. It's funny. It's just like about personal identity, and it gets so mixed up with policies. Yeah. And I especially think, like the EPA. I mean, so it's one thing to feel like you're invisible in the South, but it's another thing to say we're going to cut the EPA by 1/3. So maybe you can talk a little bit about the Great Paradox, and I mean that's the epicenter of it. I mean,
it is.
If the EPA gets cut by 1/3, we're all going to be deeply affected by it. But I mean, if you're in Southern Louisiana, I mean, you're going to be affected by it more than almost anyone I can think of.
I know, and think of this guy Mike, for example, who loves nature. He loves fishing. And he couldn't get any time to go out fishing.
That's what you said. His first year, he didn't get any time off for his first 5 years, and then he gets a week off, and then he gets 2 weeks. His whole life, he's been waiting to retire so he can spend a normal working day out in the natural world.
And you know how he talks about fish? I always knew that fish had eyes and a mouth, but I didn't know they had a face.
Yeah.
He kind of would describe the faces of fish and almost knew them personally. Here's a guy, it's not an abstract kind of environmentalism in his case. He kind of knew them and where they hung out and what they ate and where they
what they were thinking.
Yes.
I mean,
yes.
you know,
If I were
that
a
degree
fish,
of empathy.
he
Talk
did.
about an empathy wall. He just.
And my empathy was missing. It was 0 on fish. And so for that person who was waiting all this time, as you said, to get time to fish, and now finally he's there, and a catastrophe takes place, this environmental...
Total catastrophe.
Just for those who haven't read the book, what happened is he told me, well, the thing about big government is that it takes your community away. You know, we should have this gift exchange. We don't need government.
Taxes and someone from far away telling us what to do.
Yeah, the big bad north.
Yeah.
No, we're just local. And so what happened was it wasn't the government, big bad overreaching government that took his community away. It was unregulated industry that did, because what happened is he lived in this place called Bayou Corn. How many people have heard of Bayou Corn?
Yeah.
Okay, Bayou Corn. And one day he thought he was having a heart attack because he was wobbling, and everybody else was, because the earth was wobbling. This is a place that never had earthquakes before. And lawns began to tilt. And then methane gas, 2012, August, methane gas. And when it rained, it looked like Alka-Seltzer tablets, just in the rain puddles. And then methane gas is dangerous. You know, you light a match, who knew if there would be an explosion? So the whole place, 360 residents were evacuated to the backs of cars. They moved in with relatives, cheesy hotels, never to return again to their homes. They were lost. And it turned out to be a drilling accident that had drilled down Texas brine. Brine's very useful in fracking, very useful in making chlorine and other industrial substances. It drilled the one side of an underlying salt dome way down, and one side caved in, causing a sinkhole.
Well, and by the same token, too, those underground salt containers are basically used to store industrial wastes, too.
Yes,
so
industrial wastes like ethylene dichloride
exactly.
and hydrochloric acid and very dangerous things. And it's very loosely regulated.
Right.
Who knew that the government was, regulating something you couldn't see? That was my whole experience of Louisiana. That it's what's going on isn't on the surface. It's going on underneath.
And so the sinkhole, it was like hundreds of acres, right? I mean,
yes, it started with something the size of this carpet,
Yeah.
and now it's 36 square acres of what's called a sacrifice zone. It's a terrible trade of pristine swampland, like underwater forest, for this methane-infused sludge, and it's of no use to anyone. So, and scientists didn't know that this hadn't happened before. So that happened to Mike because this company had not been really regulated, and that's the story of regulation. It's an oil state, and so why does he vote for Donald Trump, who wants to get rid of the Environmental Protection Agency? Has become this the current question. It's not gone yet, in my mind. And actually, two things. One is I understand his dislike of state government, and he reasoned that federal government was a bigger, badder version of state government. And the Louisiana state government is an oil state. It's what we would call a captured state. And so the state does the moral dirty work for the oil industry, which is to say it pretends to protect people, and it does not. It gives out permits to dump hazardous waste and to drill in questionable areas. It even imports hazardous waste from Arkansas, which
Yeah,
has
right,
stricter
exactly. I couldn't believe
regulations
exactly.
than
That was-
Louisiana.
yeah.
It imports it for, So how could it be? He hated the state government because, look, they're taking my tax money. I haven't had a raise in 2 decades. They're taking my tax money to improve the life standards of a guy who's not wearing a state uniform, but he's not protecting me. Meanwhile, the companies, although they offered very few permanent new jobs, because they're highly automated, and they import Filipina pipe fitters, still, those companies are looking a little better because they give the few jobs they have are well paid, number one. And with the $1.6 billion that the state taxpayer, that the Republican governor took tax money and gave it to these
Right, so
companies
incentives
as incentive money. And with that, they can give a donation to the Audubon Society, and then the Ducks Unlimited, and kind of win goodwill. But that's really, the
Those
government.
incentives just seemed like they were completely. I mean, one of the questions I had was kind of comparing Huey Long with Bobby Jindal.
Yes.
I mean, it's just two governors of the state, and just maybe you could talk a little bit about that too, because it seems just financially disastrous to be giving these massive incentives to industry, and then laying off all the people who are doing government services in the state.
I know.
In some ways, you know what you did just now. I had a light bulb that went above my head, and I must be the most ignorant person on the planet. But it never occurred to me that the state, the quality and the quality of state government, that if it could deteriorate so badly that it would begin to infect like our experience of national government or federal government.
Yeah.
I mean, you just don't think of how a terrible
Right.
problem in a state system will then have have repercussions for everyone in the whole country.
Right. And those states that are taken over by industry tend to be Republican.
Yeah.
And one finding of my book is that it is the red states that are the most polluted.
Right.
They're the most polluted states, and they have lower life expectancy. So it isn't, you would think, their self-interest to try and figure this thing out.
And that's part of the problem too. Because everything's so circular. It's just like, on the one hand, your environment's going to become more polluted. I love that the study that you talked about. I can't remember the name of the person who said when industries are looking for places to locate their oil refineries,
yes.
they will look for a particular demographic of the people.
That's right.
And then, that's sociology, practical sociology.
The least resistant personality
Exactly,
profile.
Yeah.
They would be Republican, they would be rural, they would be small business,
extractive
lower middle class.
industries,
They would be
ranching,
Catholic,
exactly. Yeah.
And that's, they came to where it was the least resistant.
Yeah, but where are things going now? Will people just forget about what that governor did, Bobby Jindal?
They don't like him, but they're not looking at it. We know things and that we admit we know, and then we know things and we bracket them.
Yeah.
We all do that.
Yeah.
And they do that.
Yeah.
And so they voted twice, 2 terms, for a man who stripped the state, just 44% cuts in higher education.
Like thousands and thousands of employees lost their jobs.
Lost their jobs, nurses, teachers.
Well, you said even one of the most scary things was, you may not even remember this, but a child is a victim of child abuse is put into like the office building because there's nowhere else they can't afford to put him somewhere else.
That's right.
I was just amazed by that.
Yeah. And that's something they know but don't know.
Yeah.
That they bracket, that they set aside. It's so important for us to pause a moment on this setting aside. Something it's kind of tacit knowledge. Kind of just, in the shadows of your consciousness. And so they don't feel good about it, but they blame him for something else. Oh, he was running for president from Louisiana, from Baton Rouge. He didn't really care about us. It wasn't the logic of what this man did that bothered them. But they did vote for a Democratic.
Right after I noticed that.
Governor who's stuck with repairing the disaster.
Right, and then blamed him for raising taxes.
Yeah.
When everything had been totally dismantled, it was just like trying to put something back together, it sounded like.
So this guy, Mike, I went back to him about what had happened to him and how could he be voting for Donald Trump. Okay, and I took my son, who is a member of the California Energy Commission.
Oh, yeah.
And Sally knows, and in charge of renewable energy. They have a big bureaucracy. I think about 600 people work in it. They're hugely successful.
Right.
California's on its way to becoming, in 2030, half of its energy reliant on renewables.
Wow.
And while the rest of the country per capita is using more and more energy, California's less and less energy. The commission is on target for them.
Great.
And they are tigers. They really want to do this. So two more different people.
Oh, yeah,
one
exactly.
plantation south and the other is progressive and in California and renewable oil over here, renewable over there. I thought, let's go fishing, you two. I'm just going to hold the tape recorder.
Right, completely. I'll press
Can
play.
you guys get some common ground? I mean, Mike had just been through this terrible, traumatic, accident. He lost the thing he prized the most, his local community. Everyone is an environmental refugee. So, get him together with David, and they'd met once before, and because I brought my family down as I was birthday thing. So this was David's second trip, and so they knew each other, they liked each other, went out fishing, and I held the tape recorder. Okay, how can you agree on a way of avoiding another bayou corn sinkhole happening anywhere? I know you both want that.
Right, exactly.
How would you do it? What's the role of the government in this? And it was difficult, and I'm writing a piece about it, but I'm listening to the tape recorder. It didn't go smoothly because David would ask these lucid questions. Now, as a mother, saying, look, if you have a sheriff in town, you need a sheriff, right, to keep crime down.
Exactly.
Well, some companies are also potential criminals. Don't you need a sheriff to guard the safety of the environment? And Mike would say, yes, but it can't be a criminal, sheriff. He was really stuck on that. But eventually, yes, he said Mike said, it's not fair that California gets to be clean and we have to be dirty because everybody uses the plastic things that are made in Louisiana. We provide the feedstocks for the plastic stuff, and we all are in cars and airplanes, and that's done here. Why are we being penalized, and that's not fair? And David said, yes, it's not fair. So why don't we need a guard dog? So very reluctantly, and I didn't quite get a yes, because he was so burned, as you're saying, by the state experience. But then the conversation went to renewables, and David said, wouldn't you like a solar rooftop here? And Mike said, yes, I'd love a solar rooftop. That would be great. And I'd like one on my boat and my motorcycle. Yeah, solar, let's do it. And David said, yes, but how about some government incentives for that? because, China, with whom we're in big competition, is really subsidizing the solar energy, and they've got it for the moment stolen. And Mike, well, yeah, like that. And then David said, and also it would mitigate the effects of climate change. Oh. No, you can't sell it to people like me and my people here. No, we feel like that's a made-up hoax. And then the sweetest thing Mike said, but if you do want to sell it to people, here's how you do it. You talk about freedom, you talk about independence, that you can be a producer of your own energy, and you're your own businessman. And David was taking notes. Okay, so this is how I can sell it to the right wing. So that was very sweet that Mike was trying to help David do that.
One of our traditions at Grace is we have little note cards. You can write questions for Arlie on the note card, and then Rebecca will gather them and bring them forward. And I'm glad you brought up climate change, and that was one of the things I thought about so much. It's just the role of the media in this, and we haven't talked about that very much. But so if Rush Limbaugh is who you're listening to on the radio, and Fox News is who you're watching on TV. There are going to be a lot of things that you're not going to hear about. So you may not hear about the sinkhole if you're, so it becomes only a local problem. You don't hear about it in Florida or Alabama or what have you. Global climate change is another example too. Yeah. What do we do, when such a large portion of people are just getting their picture of reality from those kinds of sources?
I think what we do, and it's a very important question you're asking, I think what we do is provide other sources of information. And I have a Skype interview coming up with a documentary filmmaker crew that are trying to get across the idea that climate change is real through blue-collar voices. So in it, the idea is to interview a firefighter down in Southern California. Never seen flames like this before. This is hot and dry, and never in my lifetime. My grandfather was a firefighter. Never seen anything. This is new. Or someone who lives on the coast. This is new. This is different. Fishermen. And the animals are different, and they're new bugs.
Right, spring is coming like 20 days earlier.
Early, yeah. So tell the story through the voices and wisdom of people close to this who are blue collar.
Yeah.
The wisdom of the blue collar saying, hey, this is happening,
well,
this is real.
There
isn't some fancy expert. You know it through.
The cypress tree's dying. I mean,
yes.
And you're right, that's our grandparents know about that.
That's right.
Yeah.
I think that's their idea. I think it's terrific.
Yeah.
I think it's a good way.
It's right. I mean, it's funny because in a way what you're saying is like, let's use different forms of media to get more messages out there.
That's right. And in the media more forms of media, and with a different vocabulary.
Thank you.
We talk about Wall Street and Main Street, and this is part of the, language we use. But even the word Main Street suggests a small shop on Shattuck Avenue, or
right, exactly.
And doesn't really help you visualize the pipe fitter who did, the plumbing, or the guy that climbed the telephone pole to put in the wires, or the guy who dug the ditch. That there should be another language so they feel seen.
Right.
So
you're
even Main Street doesn't really get there. It doesn't make them feel.
No one works on
seen.
Main Street anywhere.
Yeah.
Except lawyers do.
Yeah, well, lawyers. Yeah. That's so.
We are starting to get some, this is a great question. What has been the reaction to your book? And this person I think is more thinking about the people you interviewed. But I wonder too, just if there's something that kind of changed your mind about anything, or something that you wish you'd done differently or better, or what have you.
After the book came out, I sent copies to all the people I interviewed, and who had helped me. And 2 weeks later, I went back to Louisiana and put on dinners, one in Baton Rouge.
What a great idea.
And one in Lake Charles. And they liked the book. In fact, they read the chapter about them first.
Right, I can imagine that.
Right. How'd I come up?
I would have done it too.
Yeah. And in fact, even felt a little proprietary about their chapter.
Oh.
For example, Janice Areno,
Yes,
this was the team
right.
loyalist, in one one part of the chapter, I mentioned that Cher Bono, this television star, had said, "Oh, those fucking Tea Party people," and so I was trying to explain why. Sympathetically, she would feel that the mainstream media and Hollywood was against her, right? So I did it to give my readers a feel for how it feels to be insulted in that public like that. Well, she wanted the F word out of there. She said, "I don't want that word in my chapter."
Oh, that's great.
And she also, at this dinner, she came, impish grin, and she had a jacket, and she said, "You want to see what I have on under the jacket?" I said, "Well, yeah." And so she pulled it out, a T-shirt that said, "Adorable deplorables."
I figured it was going to be something like that.
"I'm going to get you one of these, but you have to wear it."
You know, one of the things I liked about what you wrote here is just like the level of civility. I mean, so what you see on television, like the president's tweets are more uncivil than the people's conversations with you.
Much.
And I thought that was interesting too. It's just so important that, I mean, I think our representatives, our national representatives, can come across so much more extreme. Here's not a question, but a statement. I liked very much that you made a connection with a woman who had a different perspective than yours. This is how we change the world, by changing ourselves, which I thought was. What role do you think sexism played in the decision to vote for Trump? The thought that a woman should not be in a position of power.
All the women that I interviewed over this 5 years of research, 40 hardcore right wing, 60 in all the women worked. So they had an interest in equal pay for equal work. That they did. But they had an eye on the men in their class level, their marriage pool, the men they would marry, had married, brothers, uncles, what was happening to those men. And there is, I think, some compassion for the men. They thought their men were in trouble. And some of their vote, I think, came from that, not from sexism. They thought they were tough. They knew other women were tough too. But more from that. So class was more important than gender. Class. And I feel in a way that I had gone to visit a class more than a region. It was a class.
Yeah, I think that too.
I didn't think that's what I was doing.
Like Donald Trump seems like such a strange, to have this real estate magnate who, to be that represented that class. And I mean, do they see that connection too? That the strangeness of that the person who becomes the leader is this person who, uses very crass language, has cheat on his wives, and continues to make multiple. The way he talks about women, so disrespectful, etc. I mean, does it seem? Were they voting just against Hillary and got Trump, or would they rather have had somebody else than Trump? But
they would rather have had someone else.
I think that's probably true.
When this last visit to Mike, David, my son, asked him, "Do you have any hesitations about Donald Trump?" And Mike said, "Where do I begin?" He voted for him, a class vote, but no, and all of them have hesitations. But they felt, that's how invisible they felt, and that's how unspoken to by the Democratic Party,
Yeah.
they felt. And that's, I began with this red state paradox. How could it be that the poorest states with the worst records of health and education and welfare, highest proportion of disrupted families, were also the states that took more money from the federal government than they gave and still hated the federal government? Paradox. But I ended up with a blue state paradox.
Yeah.
Really, how come the Democratic Party, the party of the working man and the working woman, is losing droves of working men and women? What are we not doing?
Right.
That's the question that I think is on, blue state progressives. That's in front of us. It's on us to solve that one.
Yeah, it made me wonder too, just about the people losing so much faith in like the EPA. Is there something the EPA should have been doing over the last 30 years?
Yes.
So that this massive lack of trust.
That's right. That's right.
Your book is one of a number of recent ones to help people on the left understand those on the right. I don't know of any that make an effort to explain the left to the right. I suspect it's a lack of interest. Did you perceive any curiosity or openness among your Tea Party friends to understand where we are coming from?
Interesting. Not much. Not much. They were very eager to be understood. I thought this would be difficult to do. They said, well, I'm glad you're coming. We're the flyover state, and I want you to set them straight. Your people don't understand us. And they think we're ignorant and prejudiced, and you get word back. So they were assigning me the job of being a messenger. So that was already interesting and a gift. But no, not as curious about us. And part of that was, I think, a kind of more blue-collar way of finding out about people. I mean, I feel the right to pry. Tell me.
Yeah, right, exactly.
and if you're at a cocktail party, where'd you go to school?
Right.
You ask these questions. They wait and see who you are. They expect you to be around, a stayer like they are. So they consider it a little rude to do the prying that I did, but they would have observed things about me. It wasn't that I wasn't observed, but that they didn't pry. So that is kind of the shape of their curiosity, their expression of it. But no, there wasn't a great deal of curiosity back, and I don't know of an equal and opposite book. But I will tell you that I had a recent experience, because one of the people I interviewed, this Sharon Galicia, who sells medical insurance to the guys in the plants and the dreary outskirts of Lake Charles. And she voted for Trump, big Tea Party activist, and her 17-year-old son loves Bernie Sanders. She's a wonderful mother because she isn't threatened by this. It opens up conversation.
Good for her.
So I was having dinner with her in Lake Charles, and I said, well, if Bailey's interested in Bernie Sanders, maybe y'all should come up. I'll show him Berkeley.
Right.
And she did. They did. Wow. She and her two kids were our guests 3 weeks ago.
Great.
And we went to Robert Reich's lecture on social inequality, which was brilliant. And Bailey loved it.
Oh, great.
And he's applied to Berkeley.
Oh, great.
So, but in the course of it, I've teamed up with Joan Blades, the co-founder of MoveOn.org, and she's a mediation lawyer who started something called Living Room Conversations. You get left and right together, and you break bread together, and you see if you can find common ground on a particular issue. Right. So we had a living room conversation in our living room, and Sharon and her kids were there, and another right-winger. So it was really, and the last night, Sharon said, I want to do a living room conversation when I get back to Lake Charles.
Yeah.
And Bailey, the son, said, and I want to write an editorial for the school newspaper that he was the editor of on the environment in the area.
Wow.
So I thought, and this is the one that wants to get churches together.
Right.
So it's within our hands. You know what I would love to see? Okay. Wouldn't it be something if we got all high school seniors on the coasts to be hosted for 2 weeks, let's say, the families of a high school senior inland. Inland goes to coast. South goes north. North goes south. We de-enclavize ourselves, get ourselves out of our bubbles, and not just to be nice together, but to have some project, like like Habitat for Humanity, where you're actually painting a door together and talking about things. And I'd love to see that happen.
Yeah, that's great. That's like an exchange program within the country.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I was giving a talk at Harvard Business School about 4 days ago. I said, look, you guys are really practical. Could you make that happen? And StoryCorps, I've tried it out. So pass the word. Wouldn't it be a good thing? It isn't just, I think, a feel-good thing. I think there is a pragmatism behind that idea. And here is my thought, that in the next 4 years, it is quite possible that some disaster hits, something that of a military nature hit, and that President Trump calls a state of emergency of some sort and divides, as only he can do, the patriots from the seditious. Right? He's already done that with mainstream media. He said that the New York Times, the Washington Post, CNN are enemies of the American people. These are words out of our president's mouth. So if he can divide the media like that, couldn't he do that with the population? This is just speculation. Dark speculation, but I think there's some reason for us to entertain this possibility. And should this happen, wouldn't it be great to have 1,000 bridges?
Right.
To break up the paranoia. Because what he's doing with his tweets is an end run around our source of information.
Right.
And feeding into a paranoid channel and paranoia is really something that catches on among people who feel powerless and who are less educated, and that's just who he's got.
Yeah.
So we have to, that's the new challenge for us. And one way of addressing that challenge would be to get these bridges through churches, through schools.
Yeah, the churches are a great way to do it. I mean, our bishops all meet a few times a year. I mean, there's a way in which the church can have a role in this. And I'm so glad that you got that note from Epiphany. I don't even know, do you know what town it was in Massachusetts?
I don't, it's in my email.
Yeah. We're so grateful to have you. There's tons more questions. I know that you'll be signing books here. But one of the challenges for you, I'm so glad you gave us a challenge, is would you be able to write a book that could explain the liberal progressive view? Or would you even be interested in it? But we're so grateful to have you. We're going. The forum will be taking a break for the next 2 weeks. Next week is Palm Sunday. The week after that is Easter. But after that, we'll be meeting with Jose Quinones, founder of Mission Asset and a MacArthur Genius Fellow. You're welcome to join us at the 11 o'clock service upstairs. We're a house of prayer for all people without exception. And we also rely on your support too. So if you can give us a donation, please make a gift on your way out. And then finally, I really do hope that all of you have a chance to read this important book. I mean, it's at every public library I can think of, and it does open a door that I think is very important. And we're so grateful for you for your work on this.
Thank you.